Welcome back. I've decided to tackle this one as part of my rewatch period because it's nominated for Best Picture. I only gave it a B plus the first time around, so I wanted to see if that stood. Did I feel the same about Past Lives the second time around? So I dove in. Luckily for me, I own this now, so I bought it when it came out. Um, Everybody was so obsessed with it and it had so many good reviews. I was like, sure. Let's just speed through this process. If I had to wait for its streaming debut, I would have just watched it in February on Paramount Plus with Showtime, which is insane. Um, so I'm glad that I saw it a long time ago. I reviewed this movie, I don't know, back in probably like August. When it hit VOD, somewhere back in there. And it's since has had quite a journey for itself, getting nominated and winning, and it looked like for a minute there it was the front runner for Best Picture, and then the rest of the year happened, and then it was like, will Past Lives even get nominated? Seems like a small film now, and it managed to get a nomination for Best Picture and for Best Original Screenplay for Celine's Song for her screenplay, so she at least walks away with an Oscar nomination for this film, which makes sense to me. Um, she did write and direct this, and it got a lot of critical praise. There are quite a few critics out there that this is still their favorite film of the year. It did pretty well with critics groups. It could have done better considering the love that they seem to have for this film, but they did try to spread the love and jump into some newer films that they didn't know that they'd be jumping into that came out later in the year. That's the problem with it's like staking your claim in June. I was telling a story about how like one of my favorite film critics um, said when he reviewed this film way back when it came out. Actually, I think he reviewed it out of Sundance. To be totally honest, and he said this is my favorite film of the year. I'm sticking to that. He didn't stick to it. It was his number two film of the year when he did his rankings. I saw that. I was like, I'm the only one that remembers his reviews. But no, he did. It got surpassed. It came close. Um, but yeah, that was a fun moment for me. I was like, I wonder if anybody remembers his Past Lives review and uh, how strong he was about this, about him refusing to take another film as his best film of the year. Anyway, this is it's fine. It still is fine. I just it's gonna hit you if it's gonna hit you. For some people, it hits them. I don't think it's just the Korean American aspect that is hitting people because there are plenty of people who are not Korean American that are emotionally moved by this film. I think it's just the way the film is conceived, which is to start off and show you two people who are perfectly happy together when they're children, and then one family decides to immigrate to America, and suddenly there's a lot of space between, and it's a little bit before social media, so it's not as easy to keep up and immediately go on and friend them on Facebook. On the Facebook. And she also changes her name to sort of Americanize herself a little bit. And yeah, she goes on and gets in her education and starts living the American life that her parents wanted for her, the whole reason why she and her family moved. And meanwhile, he's left back in South Korea, just living the life that was sort of planned out for him, which includes mandatory military service at a point in his life, and working in jobs, and just culturally different than two completely culturally different experiences. um and then one day he looks her up and finds her, you know and they find each other, and then they start talking, and they're talking and they're talking and they're talking, and then one day she's just like, I don't know, we can't talk anymore. This is just, I need to be able to do other things, and all I think about is plane tickets. So I think we need to take a break. And then that break turns into, like 12 years or something. So it's tough, but it's sort of just how life works out. And then there's an interesting conversation towards the end about who they were to each other in past lives, like the concept of being um star-crossed lovers that are always you know to meet at some point. It's an interesting conversation, but he also doesn't take into account that maybe they're not, you know it's a fun conversation to have about the life that they might have had in a different life somewhere, but also maybe she was always meant to meet John Magaro's character. I'm gonna go with Magaro because audio description says Magaro. So yeah. um and John Magaro here does really nice work. It's really understated, and it's very supporting, and it's why pretty early on, once some louder supporting performances started to hit the scene, he kind of started dropping out of the race. Like, people started leaving him out of categories. Teo Yu did just manage a BAFTA nomination, so his performance stuck with people. Greta Lee has been nominated a couple places. I do believe she's nominated at SAG. I know she was nominated at Golden Globes. Just didn't. Neither of them could get any Oscars. So it's well acted. It feels like it still owes something to Before Sunrise. Same thing, sort of like with Rye Lane. Like, there are these films that sort of explore relationships while walking and talking and in a limited time. And while Celine does it over the course of a longer period, it's so funny how I always think about, I don't even love Before Sunrise that much, but whenever I see a film like this, I always think of Richard Linklater's Before Sunrise. And um, yeah, and I still think about that too here with Past Lives, the similarities, also the differences, just the choices in the script, and what it makes me think about it, what it makes me feel is the whole. Yes, I would, of course, love to reach out to people from my childhood. I just didn't have anyone that I was in love with when I was 12. So I just had friends from my childhood that I lost contact with. I moved when I was 10 across country, sort of randomly in the middle of the night. um, and um, when this, when there was no social media, there was no adding people to Facebook or anything like that. And you just had somebody's phone number or somebody's address, or you didn't. And one of my best friends moved, and I never got a phone number or an address. And we were like, twins, basically. And would I love to find that person? Yeah, that person happens to have an incredibly common name that would make it impossible for me. I could hire the world's best detective. I don't think they'd find him. So it's one of those things where it's like, could you find John Smith for me, please? It's like, yeah, not gonna happen. So, and I have other friends throughout my life that I just, because I didn't have social media, I couldn't just immediately go, oh my God, let me add you, and then we'll just stay friends forever. It didn't happen. So some of those people don't create social medias, or you can't find them, or um, it's like, what is, how did they put their name on their social media? Not everybody uses their real name on social media, so it becomes harder. And so I understand that aspect of it, but it doesn't emotionally pull me in as much as something like All of Us Strangers, where the universality of wanting to say something to somebody that you didn't get a chance to before they died, does. I think that one is the more emotional gut punch for me. So while Past Lives I think is fine and a good film and well acted, the two films that are both asking us to get deeply emotionally invested and personally invested by pulling things that we very likely have from our lives. The one that wrecked me was All of Us Strangers, and it had nothing to do with the LGBT quality of it. I, you know, while I am, I don't. Also, that's not the conversation that I want to have with with the people that I want to talk to. That's not why I want to talk to them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's not the first thing I want. By the way, I needed to tell you before you died. You know, like the so just it's just weird, the things that you would want to say, and it makes you really think about what would you say if you could have that conversation. And it had me in my mind for weeks about different conversations I would have with different people. So um yeah, it's that's I don't know. I guess maybe Past Lives is just gonna stay at a B plus for me, is what I'm saying. It's just I feel pretty like that's where it is. But I also see its value for other people. I think there are people out there that this is their best film, that this is emotionally wrecking them because this is their situation, because there was somebody that they fell in love with, and then somehow they fell out of touch, and there's that what if, and that's what Celine Song plays on so wonderfully here. Um, I My biggest concern is I with the whole film, watching it a second time through, is I wish that it hadn't just been this random decision of uh, Nora to just stop talking. That she was like, I can't, like I can't pursue my life and also occasionally talk to somebody who lives in another country. Uh, I mean, that feels like a time allotment problem. um, I don't know. It seemed very immature to me. Now that I look back on that decision, it feels very like I have no self control, and I'm incapable of doing anything else in my life other than talking to you over video chat. My entire day is this. Um, I I make a different arrangement. Be like, we'll talk on Fridays. You know, I have to be able to do other things, so we're gonna talk once a week. Um, can't talk to you every night because I have to. But her whole like, we're not going to talk for a year thing is weird. It just is, but it feels like it has to happen so that the rest of the film can happen. I just kind of wish it had happened a little bit more carefully and organically instead of just nope. I have no self control. I must stop talking to you. It's very weird. Anyway, um, I have to give it some reason for why I have a B plus other than just I don't know. I wasn't feeling it. Anyway, that's it. Past Lives, second time through. Audio description is absolutely just necessary here. A lot of it is in Korean, so yeah, you wouldn't understand the film without it. I wouldn't be able to watch Past Lives without it. This is a case I constantly try to make about why we need more audio description on foreign language films. I really would love to watch international content, but I can't because it typically isn't audio described, and I don't speak 1,000 languages. Even if I was bilingual, even if I just happened to be bilingual, I would most likely be, Spanish, right? It would be Spanish and American, and that's not a language. English, my God. Anyway, Spanish and English. So, So, I'd be left out of every Italian film, every Japanese film, every Mandarin, every, German or, uh, Polish and Irish and, I mean, like, there's so many films. So just commit to audio description on international content so that way we can see what these filmmakers are doing from other countries. What I love about the international Oscars is every once in a while they find something from a country that we don't usually get cinema from. And they're like, ooh, check out this film from Uzbekistan. And you're like, they make films in Uzbekistan. Yeah, they do. Of course they do. They make films everywhere. So, um, but don't you want to kind of see what that would be like? And I would like to. I just happen to be blind. Don't punish me for that. Put the audio description on it. So I'm glad that I got to watch this film that has at least a lot of Korean culture in it, although I don't think that the core story here is specific to just Koreans. I think if you have anybody in your life, in your past life, that you miss, this will hit you. So, and however special that person is to you will just cause this film to hit you even more. So, I don't have a problem with this being a Best Picture nominee, even though it's not in my top 10. Um, I mean, it's unlikely that my top 10 would be the exact same Oscar top 10. I've seen over 270 films from this year. Oscar voters just didn't watch that many. So, anyway, that's it. So, I'm giving Past Lives once again a B plus. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Website, macmovieguy.com. X Threads or Instagram at macmovieguy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description, where you can watch it. You can go to the adna.org. That's the adna.org, and you can see who's narrating your favorite films and television series. Anyway, I will watch something else and see you guys in a past life. Ooh, or future life. I guess it's the future life. Yeah. Anyway.